I already have a Joe Quinn tattoo.
Yeah, it's on his ass.
Yeah.
This is war. Real war.
I mean,
We went to a Mitski concert together.
yeah. In New York, the one, what was the name of that theater?
The Beacon.
The Beacon, yeah.
She did this thing, which maybe did at your show that stuck with me since, where she danced with the spotlight. So it was just her alone, as if she was dancing with someone.
Was that for My Love?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof, devastating.
It was amazing.
Devastating. Yeah. I build a playlist for every character, and it's something that as the shoot progresses, it kind of becomes this just ritual. Like, I'll just listen to it in the chair in the morning, and then, yeah, it's just a nice way to kind of get into the inner landscape of a character, and it's super enjoyable.
Same there, but what was interesting about this kind of first time for me was building because of working with Joe Quinn, and we're these twins in certain ways. We're like a double act.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always build a playlist as well for myself and for the character. But this was the first time where Joe and I started trading songs.
Nice.
And it became this way of conversing and figuring out how on the same page we were about certain things. So that was fun to share it.
Hands on the mausoleum floor. Blood stains the Coliseum doors.
No Church in the Wild. You don't mind it still?
No.
Like, that was me and Fred and Joe and a couple of the other gang would like celebrate the end of the week on a Friday, and Nikki, my driver in Malta, was as were we. Like, that song would feature heavily on a Friday night. So when we saw it in the trailer, I thought we had been spied on.
Yeah, it was so wild because we never shared that with Ridley.
Yeah,
like,
never.
There was no verbal crossover about how we were listening to that music. And then when it was there in the trailer, it was this amazing and pretty great surprise.
Yeah.
I remember the phone call.
Yeah, I was like,
you're not going to believe what's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Watch the Throne is more fitting in the Coliseum than like Your Best American Girl, even though I would like to imagine it. But
yeah, I don't think that would go down well with the boys generally if Mitski was on. But
I would love to see Mitski perform at the Coliseum.
Yeah,
That would be
100%.
amazing. It's true. Oh my gosh, MTV. Yes, it's true. And it's also true that Sir Ridley Scott is a Beavis and Butthead fan.
Yeah.
He loves Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Joe and I talked with Ridley about Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious, and then we also did talk about Beavis and Butthead. And sometimes when we would finish a scene, I would look at Ridley, and he and I would both do the laugh, from the cartoons. So that was really fun.
I didn't see that. I would love to see that.
Kind of on the side.
Yeah.
On the side,
Yeah, great.
That's something you just can't believe is happening in your life. You
Yeah.
know? You're doing the Beavis and Butthead laugh with Ridley Scott.
With Ridley Scott, you're winning.
I was thrilled to find out that you were in the Phantom of the Opera in school.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Phantom choreography, I was very, very green at this point, so it was a lot of floating hands. I was taking the part quite literally. Didn't really have a clue what I was doing. So I'm going to have to safely say that the fight choreography in this was more difficult.
I have to see this.
No, you don't have to see it.
I'm gonna do some internet sleuthing after this.
Yeah. It's there. I love that film. It's here. And I don't want to talk about what it means, but I can say that I love the film a lot. Yeah.
I love Eternal Sunshine. I also love Be Kind Rewind. I'm gonna get my niche Be Kind Rewind
yeah.
tattoo, as well as a Gladiator tattoo.
And a Joe Quinn tattoo.
Yeah, Joe Quinn, of course. I already have a Joe Quinn tattoo.
Yeah, it's on his ass.
Yeah. I got in trouble because Joe Pesci in Goodfellas was my favorite ever, and I would do his speech, that you think I'm funny like a clown.
Yeah.
And I did it in school and got
in trouble.
I got in trouble for because I thought he curses a lot in it, so it's fine because I'm just doing what he did.
You're just copying. It's not you.
But the principal didn't really understand that concept. They weren't on the same page there. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I loved Indiana Jones growing up. I think I was just wanted to be him. I wanted my brother was an even bigger fan of Indiana Jones, but I just found those films so captivating, and he's so brilliant in them.
I think that's my most frequent Halloween costume.
Yeah, it's a great.
Because I have that hat. It always comes in handy.
What do you use for the whip?
At one point, I think I borrowed one from. Sometimes I use a belt and fashion it.
Yeah.
I use that, but I think at one point I
You got
borrowed
away.
something from like the costume department.
That's the kind of attention that we need
Yeah.
for Halloween costumes.
Yeah, I know that's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. And you look good. Like it's
You
a
look,
good.
yeah, and you
it's a
don't actually
good-
need that many.
You
things
don't need
to
that
do
many
it.
things, and yeah,
I love indie.
putting on Maximus's armor, pretty, yeah, big moment.
It's the dream of Rome. That people are not free.
But also just so like, there's a speech that I have at the end of the Pedro fight where it's pretty short, but I was always kind of excited. It's a weird thing because sometimes it's just something grabs your attention as an actor, and it's like, yeah. And the scale of Ridley's films is like they kind of always live up to it because the imagination that you have is exactly what he delivers for you on the day, which is kind of extraordinary.
Yeah, I would say like the first few times I worked in movies, I remember reading the script and having this idea of the scene, and then you arrive and it's beautiful, but it's, you know, it's quite focused and limited, and you're like, oh, you know, I thought this was near an ocean. And it's like, yeah, well, the ocean is, we're gonna have that in post.
We're gonna
or whatever.
shoot a reverse on the ocean.
Yeah, and you just like
100 miles
never
away.
see it, and
Yeah.
then you do a Ridley Scott movie, and it's the opposite. You like, oh my god, the actual Coliseum is all around me right now. Like everything is in 360.
Yeah.
essentially. So I felt like it always lived up to that.
It's just a mad thing that I haven't really wrapped my head around because I think we've both only seen the film once. And I think when you watch something like this, when you put a lot of care into it as you would with anything, but also when there's a legacy that comes with the first film, it magnifies the first viewing of a film in a way that is just kind of so hard to absorb. So I think when I watch it for the second time, I think we're going to watch it in London,
Yeah.
I'll be able to give you a better answer, I think.
So you weren't doing the like Robert De Niro and the Mirror and Taxi Driver, just like repeating the line over and over, practicing.
No, I think that would have made me more nervous, to be honest. I'd be like, well, I can't possibly say it like that.
Strength and honor.
Yeah,
Strength and honor.
strength and honor. Nope. We have changed the way that we absorb film, media, TV shows, all of that. But I'm yet to be convinced of anything that comes into any close competition to going into a room packed full of strangers, especially for a film like this, with the sound dialed up to 100, the screen being huge, the scale being huge. It's 2.5 hours of your life. And it's not just with this film. It's like, this is the time of year. This is my favorite time of the year. This is when all of my favorite films are coming out, all the films that I want to see. And watching films like this, but anything, like I saw Nora recently on a big screen full of people, and I was just like, this is, and yet there's just no other way to really do the film the service than watching it on the big screen.
100%. That's how, I think it's why I love movies, is the experience of being in that room with strangers and feeling the kind of emotional freedom to react to what's happening a million different ways. I really do think there's a sense of community in that's important for life, and I also think it's freeing. I think it's art goes to places that are dark and scary and liberating and funny and all those things, and you have a kind of safety when you're with people engaging with storytelling in that way. So I agree with you. Like see it on the biggest screen possible with the most people and the loudest sound, and
like see it at 7:30 on a Friday.
Yes.
Go for dinner beforehand, have a couple of drinks, and just go nuts.
Yeah.
I think that's if I could dream up a way for people to see it, it's that way.